Yeah, I'm ready whenever you tell me.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen MacNeil, the author of the Wine Bible and editor of the digital newsletter Wine Speed. And this is a live virtual tasting with Aurelio Montes Sr., who is a co-founder of Montes Wines in Chile. In 1998, Montes was really at the forefront of the first Chilean wineries to produce high-end wines in an industry that had long been known for simple, affordable, quaffable wines. So thank you for being here. If this is the first time you're joining us, we are really pleased to have you. And if you've been with us for other live virtual tastings, we welcome you back, and we hope you have a glass of Montes that you're enjoying as we are doing this tasting. Aurelio, welcome. I'm glad to see you. Did we lose you? There you are.
Yeah.
Aurelio,
Sorry, is it me or you with the problem with the connection?
no, we hear you. You're fine. Did you
Okay,
hear
good.
us? Yes.
Perfectly
So
well.
excellent. Well, Aurelio, we'll taste your very impressive wines in a moment, but I want to begin by setting the stage a bit and showing a map of Chile. We always like to do this to get everyone thinking kind of in the right way as they're tasting the wines. So let us put up, if we can, for a second, a map, and this comes to us thanks to Montes. And you'll see here in a moment that Chile exists in near perfect seclusion on the western edge of South America. It stretches almost 3,000 miles long and is bound on the west by the Pacific Ocean, as you see, and on the east by the massive Andes Mountains, and to the north, the Atacama Desert, and to the south, the frozen masses of Antarctic ice. Thanks to this physical isolation, there are very few vine diseases, right? And it's one reason why the fruit from Chile, including grapes, of course, is so high in quality. Expand on that for us, Aurelio. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, that's quite true, Karen. It's a blessing, our geography. We didn't buy it. It's just God who gave us this. And our country, as you well know, is a very thin strip of land from north to south. It's about 5,000 kilometers. It's quite long. And we have the blessing of this northern desert on the north. Then we have Patagonia, the icy Patagonia on the south, the east with the Andes, and the Pacific Ocean on the west. So we have a diversity that is really fantastic. Um, the first grapes were planted where the Spaniards came, near, Santiago and Concepcion. They're pretty close. And there was water availability, the land was good. The sort of easy to produce wines with very basic varieties like the mission grape, mainly the mission grape for religious purposes. But then in the middle of the 19th century, some rich families that could travel to Europe, they brought very good cuttings to our country. They brought the best that they could find in terms of red wines, Cabernets, Merlots, Pinot Noirs, and then in terms of white, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and Riesling from Germany. So from the middle of the 19th century, we start another era in terms of quality. The quality of the wines improved a lot, and and this happened until the mid 80s. By the end of the 80s of the past century, 1985 or 1990, in which there was a second move towards quality in which, in this case, Montes starts to play a role there. Myself as a winemaker, thought that it was a crime not to produce very quality wines out of the amazing conditions that we had. Good grapes, good geography, good climate, good human resources as well. So there was a second move towards quality, and Montes comes to stream here and plays an important role in putting the Chilean wine in a better level.
You
That's
know,
basically what happened.
I remember that so well, Aurelio, because I was in New York at that time, and Chilean wine had a reputation, of course, as being just about the best $5 bottle of wine that you could buy. And if someone had $50 and they were going into a retail store, they did not go down the Chilean aisle. And then in the late 90s, when you began, you were really right in the middle of it. You really helped create this big transition. I mean, Chile became known as, in a sense, the Bordeaux of South America. It must have been a very exciting time, but you and your partners, I understand, started without very much money.
Well, absolutely. The story of Montes is amazing. I love to tell the story, of course, because it's beautiful to tell, and everybody loves happy story, happy endings. Huh? But we started four partners, just thinking in having a very small project of top quality wines, and it was a kind of a retirement project for the future. So that was the first step that we gave. So we decided to go to only exports, first of all, only high level of quality, secondly, and third, I would say a more respectable, if the word is correct, pricing. No, because the price for wines was very low. So the big companies or the established ones, well, they were compete against France, Germany, Italy, and we were not. So we started producing the quality of the ones that we believe that should be, the ones that we should have. And this little retirement project suddenly became a very big one in which things, went very fast. We grew a lot. And today I can very proudly tell you that we're among the top five exporters out of Chile. We export 95% of our production to more than 100 countries around the world. And I think that what makes me more happy as a winemaker is that we showed a way, a path to some small wineries that wanted to follow our steps. And they had an example in what we did. And now many small wineries are doing roughly what we did 30 years ago. So
Mm.
that's the way it went. And we're very proud, happy for what we have lived and done.
Yes, people may not realize this so much because, in California and in the United States in general, wineries can sell, of course, every bit of what they make. And because the United States hasn't had such a long wine culture, people will pay high prices. But in so many, both European countries and South American countries, people were used to paying very little for wine. And so to be an exporter, to really make great wine that, as you say, was appropriately or respectably priced, you had to have global influence. And yes, Montes certainly did change that, not only for yourself, but for the entire country. Since we're talking about firsts with Montes, I know um, it seems as though steep vineyards would be something that everyone would have, but you were among the first to pioneer that in Chile. And we want to show a photo of that because we have a beautiful photo of both. Yes, there are some of some of Montes vineyards. And I think these are in Colchagua. Is that right, Aurelio?
Yeah, it's totally correct. That's a little spot within Colchagua Valley that is called Apalta. You can see the name there in the picture. Apalta is a kind of a half moon shaped little spot that's not very big, facing southwest. And no one ever planted a vineyard there. And since I left university, when I had to visit that little valley, I fell in love with it. And I said, someday I will have a piece of land there. That was a dream to come true someday. Well, it took me about 25 years, since I dreamed of this, and it became a reality. So yeah, we started clearing hillsides, very expensive job, planting, a vineyard, the same things that I saw in Côte d'Ivoire in France or in Germany in the Rhine and the Mosel. So I said, well, if we have mountains, we should use it. They're good. They have good drainage. The water goes out very quickly if you have some rain. The vigor of the plant is totally controlled. They're not growing too much, so concentration it's big, and we were not, wrong. Things went that way, and as we started producing grapes from all these steep slopes, up to 35%, 40% of steepness, uh, the quality shown by those grapes were amazing. And people were astonished. They couldn't believe this. Well, today, if you move around the country, you'll see lots of hillsides planted. Again, we were the first brave guys, that dared to do this, and it did work, and it did work. So we're getting amazing wines out of those slopes. Yeah.
Well, people
Yeah.
may not realize too how what an economic decision that is. I know here in the Napa Valley, it's almost twice as expensive to plant in the hills as it is on the valley floor. So it's a real, it's an economic risk. And it's not only just wonderful because you have like now a solar panel of sun, but in Chile's case, I'm imagining that it meant that your yields went way down, and therefore perhaps the concentration and flavor in the wines went way up.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, as I told you, the quality of the soil is a colluvial soil, lots of stones, because of these big hills there. So there's not much soil, for the roots to grab and to nourish themselves. So the growth of a plant is very controlled. The clusters are small, the berries are small, and as I told you, one of the main things is if you irrigate or you have a rainfall, the soil drains out very quickly. So I decide how much I will irrigate the plant. So as I say, I play the music and the plant dances. On the valley floor is the other way around. The plant plays the music and I'm the one dancing. So it's a good way to have a controlled production that leads to quality, and that's the important part.
Yeah, well, speaking of music, now wait a minute. How did I know this? I understand that you like to taste wines when listening to music, or listen to music when you're tasting wines. Why is that?
Well, I think that wine it's a kind of a magical product. First of all, it's so much gratifying when you're the one doing the wine, more than just drinking it.
Mhm.
So it's so gratifying when you put your hands on the clusters and do the pressing and do the wine and so on. So it's a magical thing. And then you say, okay, with this magical product, how could I enjoy the wine more? And of course, there are many ways to enjoy wine. Good company, of course, good food, good music. Music is part of it. So we love music in our winery, our barrel room. We're Feng Shui inspired in our winery. So our barrel room, we have music playing, every day, 24 hours, 24/7. So we play Gregorian chants to the barrels. And when I drink wine at home or wherever I have to, I rather have my glass of wine with music. And it depends also in what sort of wine you're drinking, what sort of music are you listening. So you can have a diversity of combination of food, of wine and music, which is very nice. And I know that you, I think that you know that we did a full study in a university, about this, and the results were really astonishing. I don't know if you want them, or not.
Yeah, I no, I completely believe it. And it's so wonderful to sort of sensorially just fill your body with all these experiences at the same time. Well, let's taste the wines because these are very exciting wines. I'm so happy to be tasting them. And we're going to start with your Alpha Chardonnay. Let me hold this up. We both are. Okay. We've got our Alpha Montes Alpha Chardonnay. And, I, before we started, Aurelio, I am here, I've got my notebook, look, writing notes. There you are. And I was really surprised by this Chardonnay. I don't think I've tasted it in a couple of vintages. And I have maybe never tasted a wine that is so exotically tropical, and yet dry and very oceanic. There's a kind of salty minerality there. What a really interesting Chardonnay, and not even a very expensive Chardonnay. It's really affordable, but it's loaded with
Absolutely.
personality.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, this Chardonnay, we're trying the 016 harvest. It comes from Casablanca Valley, which is a cold area by the coast near the ocean. And it's 100% Chardonnay. Uh, the 45% of the blend, ferments in barrels and stays for a whole year in barrel with the lees. And the remaining goes to stainless steel to keep all the flavors, of the wine. We allow this wine up to a 20% of malolactic fermentation to get a little bit, the battery, the creaminess of the battery feeling that the malolactic gives you. So my tasting notes for this, it's a real beautiful yellow, still quite pale. It's not oxidized. It's holding very well. Then I'm getting a mixture of melon, banana, a little bit of some tropical fruits, and I'm getting a little bit of a battery smell, a battery flavor that it comes from that 20% of malolactic fermentation. I'm getting some nutty flavors like dried nuts as well. And this makes the wine so complex, so nice. Now, when I try the wine,
I want to just clarify, you're saying buttery, right? Buttery flavor, not battery. Because I'm thinking people might be thinking batteries like in a car, but you buttery. Okay.
buttery from butter, yeah.
From butter.
Yeah, and when you put the wine in your mouth, in your palate, the attack of the wine is full of harmony. It's not harmful. It's inviting. It has a perfect balance, between the mid palate, the strength of the wine with the acidity. It's a very long wine. It lingers in your mouth for a long period of time. But of course, it's a 14 degrees, it's a 14 alcohol wine. So in my opinion, the Chardonnay is a food wine. It's a perfect food wine. And when they ask me what sort of food, I would tell you, I would go for this sort of creamy seafood like lobster, king crab, shrimps. That's my favorite, companion to this very nice, creamy, complex Chardonnay. Coming from Cold Valley, Casablanca is about 15 kilometers south of the coast.
And boy, you really feel Chardonnay, of course, loves cool climates. We know that from Europe and actually from the coast of California as well.
Of
Um,
course.
and it's just lovely to taste that um, exuberant freshness in the center of the
Yeah,
wine. Gives it a real sense of aliveness, which is always
absolutely.
great in white wine. Oh, it's really very delicious. Let's go to your, should we go to Purple Angel or Montes M next, do
I
you
would
think?
I would go to the Montes first, and
Okay.
coming back to music with the Chardonnay Blondie
Yeah.
goes very well. Just
Blondie. Oh my goodness.
yeah, that's a little bit more rocky, more modern style of music. So yeah, very nice. So for the M,
Okay.
we're trying an 2017 harvest. This is our very Bordeaux style blend.
Yep, this is your Bordeaux blend. Let me
We
ask
will.
you before we go into this, let me just say or ask you if I'm correct in assuming when I think of Chile and I think of its history, I think that the French and French thinking about wine has had a profound influence on Chile, despite the early Spanish conquistadors and that part of its history. When you think of Bordeaux blends have had a long history in Chile, right?
Absolutely, and even more than that, my generation of winemakers. I studied in the Catholic University in Santiago. I studied agronomy and enology, and we had an agreement with the School of Bordeaux. So our teachers were all Bordelais.
Wow.
So I have a certain affinity towards Bordeaux. I love the Bordeaux. I love the wines with structure, with mid palate, that age well, with a big potential of laying down the bottle for a long time. So at some point, when we already had, this was in 1996, my first harvest. So we were already 80 years old as a company, quite new, but we knew that we were producing amazing quality and the world was understanding. So I told my partners, we should do a Bordeaux blend, a real one, like the left bank, or La Gironde. So I assembled a blend which is an 80% of Cabernet Sauvignon, 10% Cap Franc, 5% Merlot, and 5% Petit Verdot. I was trying to challenge a little bit, the Bordeaux blends, and to discover and to demonstrate the world that we were able to produce amazing Bordeaux blends. So this wine stays for 18 months, probably in a new French oak. Normally, it's a 70 to an 80% of new oak, and the remaining 30 goes to used second use barrels, not to overwhelm, extract the oak into the wine. And then you can get exactly what a Cabernet should show you. It's getting, these red berries, a little bit of that, black currant, but it goes beyond that. It has a slight mintiness there, and getting some cedar, a little bit of the oak, of the barrel, some very tiny but positive smokiness there that wraps around the whole flavors of this wine. So it's overall elegant, Karen. If I sit down in a nice table with my wife, with a candle by the pool, it's perfect. It's a wine that you want to really enjoy it. Huh?
It seems very, to me, it seems very old world. I would never, in a blind tasting, not that I'm particularly good at blind tasting, but um, I would guess this to be a European wine before I would guess it to be, let's say, a California wine. Some of that is because it's very sleek. It's not over extracted and it's not super oaky. It's a very drinkable wine. But some of it is also because it has these flavors of sort of old leather and cigar box and things that aren't just fruit alone, not just cassis
Yeah,
alone or just black cherry alone, which is a very
absolutely.
sophisticated flavor, I think.
Yeah. And our experience, Karen, keeping this wine, laying it down, we have even the 1996 version still in our library, and it's already over the hill. Of course, it's there, but this wine can be kept for 10 or 15 years. Improving constantly. The cab has that uh, great ability, to age properly and elegantly, very, very, very much. So uh, Actually, going into the blind tastings, we did a blind tasting of this wine in LA, the US, with I think there were 18 sommeliers under their writings. It was totally blind, and we did a blind tasting with Chateau Lafite, Chateaubriand. It was Sassicaia, Ornellaia, Opus One, and this wine. So when we unveiled the bottles after the tasting, we all ranked them. Well, I didn't taste, of course, but I was just looking at all of this. And the winner was Chateau Lafite, that I think it was very fair. And the second one in the row was this one, was M. So we could fight against Haute-Brion and the big Tuscans and Opus One very well in the blind tasting. So as you say, we are a little bit, the Bordeaux of South America. We provide quality to the world coming from the new world.
Mm, yeah. Wow. Congratulations. Let's taste your purple angel. And I want to, this is your Carmenere. Let me get this angel going exactly right. There you are, purple angel. Aurelio, what is the whole story with all these angels on the label? Is it because you went to Catholic University or like,
Yeah, it's
do you have a
well,
little angel who helps you in winemaking or?
well, all the above, I would say, every one of those, because we in Chile we are normally Catholic. I started in a Catholic, actually started in a school run by North American priests, from Notre Dame, the Holy Cross congregation. So I kind of understand the way you think, the North Americans, and the sports, the baseball, the football, and everything. Uh, but in this case, it's not that much, the reason why we have angels on the label. But one of my partners, who sadly passed away about 7 or 8 years ago, he was a car lover. He loved cars. He had very good cars, but he didn't drive very well, which is a worst combination. A good car in someone that doesn't really, drives very well. So he suffered two very severe car crashes that if you look at the car, you would say no one could have survived this. It was terrible, destroyed totally. But my dear Douglas Murray, left the car with not a scratch, so totally safe. So he said, Aurelio, my guardian angel is really very powerful. So why don't we invite this angel to be part of the winery, to be the fifth partner, and we loved the idea and we did it. So every bottle of Montes wine's got an angel. It can be a very elegant like the M. It can be a purple like this one, or it can be a tipsy angel, a drunk angel like the one painted by Ralph Steadman in the bottle of Folly. That is our Syrah, our icon from Syrah. So that's more or less the story of the angels.
Wow,
But
what a great story.
well, but the important part here is the wine itself. Um, Purple Angel, well, you know the story of the Carmener in Chile, that we were mistaken and so on. So for many years, people didn't know how to work with a 100% Carmener. They planted in wrong spots. They didn't know how to vinify it. So we did trials. We were very patient in certain sense to find a very good Carmener until we found the spots that are in Colchagua in two different properties that we have, giving totally different characteristics. And I said, okay, I think it's time to produce an icon wine based on Carmener. But Carmener, has a very low acidity naturally and very high pH. So to be able to afford, a bottle aging, it needs, some sort of company. It needs a skeleton, bones,
Mm,
a wild companion to go with it. So in this case, the blend is 46% of a Carmener coming from a coastal region, 46% of Carmener coming from the Central Valley, that is warmer, and an 8% of Petit Verdot, that is the wild guy in the blend. Now supplying tannins, acids, a little bit of the wilderness. And I think the blend goes very well. It's been, a real hit in the world. People love this wine. And it's a wine that you can love it or hate it. It's because people don't really understand it, because it has muscles. It's a stallion. It's a black stallion. It's powerful. It has layers of flavors. It has, a potential for aging that it's fantastic. And it's a wine that needs, if you want to have a piece of good food, you need a something real strong, maybe game, deer, wild
Mm.
boar, something that really goes, that can matches this amazing wine. Mhm.
Well, it is, of course, Chile's signature grape, and it came from Bordeaux. I'm wondering why, pardon me, why it does so well in Chile, but did not do well in Bordeaux.
I think that the
Pardon me.
for all of this, it's the summer temperature and the lack of rain. We don't have much rain or none, to be honest, of rain during the end of spring and all the summer until the harvest. So this grape, you can wait until it ripes properly to the very end. In Bordeaux, you had some years that you could wait and some others that you couldn't because of the climatic conditions. Very high humidity, too warm for the common air. So the French, after phylloxera, they didn't want to replace it. They just forgot it. Say, it didn't work here. Let's stay with the good ones. Let's stay with the Merlots and the Cabs,
Right.
uh, things and so on. But this was totally gone and forgotten. But before phylloxera devastated the French, vineyards, this visionary, entrepreneurs coming from rich families in Chile, they had already brought the Carmenere, but on the deep convincement that it was Merlot.
I know.
Someone was cheating. Someone was cheating. I don't know, but they brought this guidance thinking that it was Merlot. Of course, discovered in the middle of 1990s, we discovered that it was not Merlot, but it was Carmenere. So it found its real home in Chile. You can
Yeah.
find amazing valleys, like Colchagua, basically Colchagua and the next door valley is Cachapoal. It grows so beautifully, and it's and the good part of it is that consumer of the world, it's understanding this wine. When you start with a new product, it's hard to put it in the market. It's hard, to convince people that it can be a very good product, especially when the Cabernet from Chile is a winner. We still sell much more Cab than Cabernet, of course. So it was a hard beginning, but now I see the figures and I see how this wine grows and grows in interest. And people that try to say, I love Carbonaire. It's
Mm.
inviting. You can have a second and a third glass. It's complex. It goes with food. It goes with music again. And yeah, it's a nice blend.
I'm so it's so interesting to hear. I mean, of course, I love Cabernet Sauvignon too, being located in Napa Valley, and of course, we taste a lot of great Cabernets, not only from here but around the world. But I have to say, Carmenere is so terrific. I mean, there's really nothing else quite like it. I love it's a relatively sleek. It reminds me of Cabernet Franc in that way.
Mhm.
Sleek, every molecule counts, and I love its violetiness and green peppercorns. It always makes me want to have a steak with peppercorns on it,
Yeah.
to pick up on that little bit of spicy flavor. It's such a terrific variety, and I'm so happy that Chile, in a way, saved Carmenere because it lives on so well um, there.
And it's growing, and it's growing. So we're very happy. And and the complexity of this wine, you stay with the wine in the glass and start playing with it a little bit, and going back over and over. You start to discover, as I told you, these layers of tar, of
Mm.
blackberries, a little bit of black pepper as well there. You're getting all the sort of flavors, a little bit of dark cherries, black cherries here, and it's a compact wine. You can bite it. It has a certain sensuality. You can bite the wine. It's a very special wine. It's a very special wine.
I'm going to quote you on that. You can bite the wine. I want you to know, Aurelio, that Elizabeth is writing in to say that she's drinking the Montes Classic Series Cabernet 2017 right now, and that she loves its deliciousness and its spiciness, and also that the tannin is, she says, very nice. Tannin is really important in red wine, though. You're working in Bordeaux varieties, and Carmenere being one of them. And I must say, I myself, in tasting both the Montes Alpha M and the Purple Angel, there's no raspy, aggressive tannin here at all. Does in good vineyards in Chile, you get ripe and you get some good tannin automatically, or you have to sort of fight for it?
Karen, for me, I have been already a winemaker for many years. I won't tell you how many, but there are lots of years I've been a winemaker. I work with a lot of young winemakers. My son is being one of those. And I keep on telling them, believe me, guys, tannin is one of the principal things that would define the quality of a wine. You may feel or not the bread, Brettanomyces. You can get or not a little bit of corkiness, but you will always get a bad tannin. It doesn't forgive.
Yeah.
So it's not something that comes naturally. We have to work hard on it.
Mm.
So I will give an example. The normal winemaking in Chile, it's 4 pump overs a day on a tank. Well, we do about 4 pump overs in a week. So we don't go that hard into this mechanical work into the skins because we want to have these smooth, inviting tannins, velvety ones that will invite you to a second glass. And as I tell my winemakers, guys, if you don't have enough tannins, you can go for more if the skins are inside the tank. But if you go beyond the limits, there's no way back. You are dead. So go slowly, taste every day, every tank. I go with the winemakers a lot to do my tastings. And when we define that the tannins are good enough, we rack out of the skins and keep the wine totally separated of the skins and seeds that are the ones responsible for the tannins. Okay.
Mm.
So you will always find in the Montes wines smooth, easy drinking tannins because it's our obsession. That's it.
It really shows in these wines, Aurelio. They're not only not aggressive, but as I was writing my notes, I was realizing, oh my God, I never even wrote the word tannin, and these are Bordeaux varieties. I have to address that. I have to go back and feel that mouth feel again. But they're very silky wines, very you know, I hate it when people say easily drinkable, because that seems like you could say that about everything. But um, the texture of the wine, which is so important in Bordeaux, in all wine, but in Bordeaux varieties, the texture is really very smooth, and that's so appealing in these wines.
And Karen, when we refer to tannins, you have to walk a very thin line because you need the tannins. It's not that you rack out, very early to avoid the tannins. You will get a very simple, easy drinking, not interesting wine. So you want the tannins. You want to have the spillers, to be able to age your wine, to lay down the bottle for a certain period. But you don't want that harshness, that bitterness that will bring, green tannins, and excessive work. So the line that you walk is very thin. That's why with the winemakers, we split the job and we taste every day all the tanks to be very clear where we are. And if someone has a doubt, immediately we go to a small committee and say, well, okay, are these tannins okay? Should we wait another day? Should we write it out? So it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work, believe me. We have too many tannins to taste every day there.
Yes. Aurelio, because you went to Catholic University, I just realized that I should tell you my analogy for tannin, which is that tannins are the flying buttresses on a cathedral.
Ah,
When
yeah.
when you are making a really structured, beautiful, majestic wine, this is what's holding it up. And this has to be like a Gothic arch, right? Very beautiful, not so much a Roman cathedral as a Gothic cathedral. As a Catholic, you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
It's like a good dome, a
exactly,
well-structured dome.
exactly. So
That
Aurelio, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an incredibly great tasting. I'm so pleased to have reacquainted myself with the Montes wines. Of course, I'm very familiar with how many firsts you have achieved in Chile, and you know, bon courage, good for you. This is really
yeah,
great. And so thank you for letting all of us taste your wines with you.
good. And you owe me a visit. You haven't
I
been in our,
do. I
so
do
you must,
owe you a visit.
we have a span, I mean, as a country, of 1,000 miles of viticulture from the far north up to Patagonia. So there's so much to see. You haven't to come and spend a week or 10 days here, and of course, be my guest, and we can do lots of tasting and have a lot of fun. Really.
I'm going to take you up on that as soon as the world allows. I promise.
Good.
All right, Aurelio.
Fantastic. Well,
Thank you so
cheers.
much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this interview. I enjoyed it. And we have so much more to talk. So let's leave something for another occasion. Okay.
Sounds perfect. And if you've been joining us, thank you again. I hope you've been enjoying your Montes wines as I have. I'm Karen MacNeil, author of the Wine Bible and editor of Wine Speed, and good evening.